What's up, cuties? It is I'm So Cutie, and today we're going to be talking about a fan favorite, Ruby Amethyst. This one is going to have just a little bit of a twist using Hercules, the Mighty Leader, and as many of you know, it protects basically all your heroes. You might be doubting the gimmick just a little bit, but Ruby Amethyst has been soaring up the charts in terms of core constructed. It is doing so incredibly well in testing and it's been able to trade up with everything. It just draws so well. It does so well. It's super impressive, and it's honestly one of my favorite lists. I think I'm a really big mid-range player nowadays, and I think that the ability for it to handle so many microtransactions is just super impressive. Let's get right into it. This is the list. A lot of it is really like very common, right? The 1, 2, 3, and 4 is very common. Something a little bit different is the Miss Incredible Frozone, which we'll get into in a little bit, but it's basically trying to abuse that hero tag, and it's trying to abuse that this meta is trying to build into blue. There's something to be said about day 1 list. There's something to be said about week 0 list, week 1 tournaments, week 2 tournaments. Everybody wants to break Merida. Everybody wants to break the green blue. Everybody wants to break the thing that is going to, woe the world. Everybody wants to play Angel into Bolt, into Tug of War, into Tinkerbell, and everyone wants to play Warded Merryweather, Scuttlecrab, Second Star to the Right. Things like that are incredibly strong if the meta doesn't develop itself fast enough, but something like Hercules is just so incredibly strong at answering these things. Let's get into why, right? You might be thinking, like, Hercules is a little bit weird. This character can't be dealt damage unless he's being challenged. Is a 5/3, not a lot of things can actually challenge it unless you're devoting 2 bodies into it. And he can't really be removed unless something like Into the Unknown, Let It Go, or being stat reduced enough for Under the Sea, which is very unlikely. So Hercules basically guarantees that another body on the board or 2 bodies on the board will be taken for him. So as a 4-drop in a tempo deck, that is incredibly strong because even though Hercules exists on turn 4, your turn 2, your turn 1, and your turn 3 are still questing for 1. They still have 4 willpower on the board. They're still producing a lot of value for you because something to be said about Ruby Amethyst is that you're basically playing 60 cards that are independently incredibly strong, right? These 60 cards are independently requiring your opponent to make very bad decisions into you when it comes to challenging, when it comes to questing, when it comes to basically considering how they're going to play the game. So Ruby Amethyst is very intricate in that regard, and something to really focus on, especially due to it being a mid-range and a way more complex tempo deck, is the fact that it has a bottom that is supposed to do what it's supposed to do, and a top that's supposed to do what it's supposed to do, right? The bottom is basically meant to survive until the end of the game and produce things that are kind of overlooked but are still usable and a punishing factor in the late game. For example, Rafiki with Lumiere can always hit for 4. Tinkerbell is the same way. And even though they quest for 1, they're still slapping back for 1 or 4. Christopher Robin, Diablo, and Lumiere are really big things that can quest for 2, quest for 1, and provide a lot of pressure on the board because you need to realize that they're still on the board alongside everything else in the deck, right? So again, that's just something but if the 2-drop is questing, you're going to have to trade up a body. And then you're going to quest for yourself, then the 1-drop gets a trade up, right? Then you have Cheshire Cat, Madame Medusa, and Sisu. Again, something mimicking the genre of the 1 and 2 drops, basically being able to remove damage, punish trades. Madame Medusa being a huge tempo breaker, kind of being like Tigger, but kind of synergizing more with Cheshire Cat, and then Sisu being an overstated 2-quester with a 4-drop, with a 4-body, and again, having that hero tag. So you do not see a lot of heroes down here except for Robin and Sisu, but the synergy really comes from the top, especially because the decks that you're more worried about when you're playing something like mid-range is control. And the biggest control decks at the moment are Blue Steel, Purple Steel, and Blurple. Depending on the archetypes, obviously, but something that you see is your top end is also playing the game. You're playing Mrs. Incredible, Yzma, and Dumbo as entirely huge draw engines, a medallion waits for small skirmishes, and then Frozone and Demona for really big swings. Again, we've been over by Hercules, right? This means Elsa, Mrs. Incredible, Frozone, Dumbo, Sisu, and Robin do not take damage. when he is exerted. Multiple Hercules means multiple targets for this effect, means multiple Hercules will be able to swing into all things. And Hercules also says nullify all damage casts, all damage songs, all damage actions, as long as he is exerted. And even then, he does protect himself, even if he is upright. And that is a really big thing, because blue, steel, ward, and actions are making their way into the meta. They are trying to break the meta. They are trying to be the things that are standing at the very top of tournaments. And something to be said, again, day one list, day one tournaments, week one tournaments. You think that a list is super strong, but the thing is the meta doesn't develop quick enough. I think that Ruby Amethyst is a deck that will develop. I genuinely think that it'll be a deck that appears in top 8s, it appears in top 4s, it wins a tournament, because the deck is just incredibly strong. The deck was incredibly strong before. People still played it. The deck was at its best, I believe, at set 10 when it really snuck in at SSG and CCS. The deck has just been really, really good. Something to be said before I get into why we play Mrs. Incredible and Frozone. Something that is really good in tempo decks and mid-range decks in general is that if you make all these cards purple and steel, right, you have to realize, like, it's Robin, and it's Captain Hook or Rafiki. It's Calhoun or Huron. It's Cheshire or Lexington or Cobra. It's Dumbo or Yzma or Genie. It is Elsa or Hades or Demona or Book or Doc, right? Every card is basically a version of itself over and over again that is trying to produce the same thing for you. It's trying to get you a very, very small lead because the card itself is independently very strong. 3 3s, 2 questers, things that don't take damage in challenges, things that are evasive, things that draw 2 to 3 cards. That is so strong. This is incredible. Something that is evasive on your 5-drop stop. It is inkable and it could quest for 2. So if you want to take a Dumbo trigger or trade into evasives, it can be evasives at the start of your turn. If you want it to quest because nothing is happening, you need a little put a little bit more pressure on the board. It can just quest for 2 straight up. But the biggest thing is that you're able to play Frozone on 6. So if people make very, again, incorrect decisions at kind of putting their hand down to put a little bit more like 1-drops, 2-drops, right? Or put a strength into something that isn't really that valuable because you have Hercules out or whatever. Like, now you get to play Frozone instead of Demona, baiting them into the fact that your only swing is Demona, but now you can play Frozone. And again, there's Elsas, so this is like having 6 Elsas. But Frozone has the ability for when you play this character, if you have another super character in play, you may exert chosen character. Also, if you know that you're going to swing into the evasives, you can make Mrs. Incredible evasive. Ink, play Frozone, swing, and Frozone can swing into something that is not evasive. Incredible can swing into something that is. And on top of all of this, you still have Cheshire Cat. So, incremental gains, right? It's also why I do not like this list with the 4-cost Genie that is uninkable 4-drop 2/4. We have seen Genie be continuously replaced by things like Isis or Tigger or Dumbo Yzma or just Yzma or Docs or Olaf and Books. The thing is, there's so much stuff that is better than just that one body replacement, especially in a very heavy and good mid-range tempo deck. Being able to play Dumbo and Yzma, especially when you're playing a deck like this where you have so much top end, right? Where you have even Demona and Book on top of all this. And again, before these 4-drops, you still have the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the 3-drop that it can hit for so much and quest for 2 and do all their own stuff. You're basically putting lightning rods down that say, if you're not answering this, I will run away with the game. If you answer this but incorrectly, the rest of my board will take away the game. You're basically putting the position, you're putting the opponent in the position on turn 4, which is the key turn in almost all the decks in Disney Lorcana, to make the decision, to make the wrong decision, to make the right decision. And even then, they're both typically in your favor because of how this deck works and what this deck can afford to do. Again, even if you do whatever, like you can play then on 5 medallion weights, have your little thing, swing, draw a card, set up another 2-drop, and just be chilling with medallion weights on the board. You can't quest. Develop into Demona the turn after that because you're on turn 5, or maybe then you find your Elsa, or then you find your Mrs. Incredible. You're basically just setting up so many cards that threaten something to happen over and over and over again. and eventually you do just run away. And if nothing is happening, because typically mid-range does struggle a lot with control, you're playing two questers. You can play Tink or Robin into Diablo, or into Sisu, and then into Yzma. You're questing for 2, 4, 6, and then Yzma triggering. You are the tankiest version of Purple Steel. It is just so incredibly impressive what it does. And another card that makes it just that much more impressive is Lumiere. Lumiere has a static effect of giving your characters +1 attack. This is something that is overlooked so much, and it's not because of things like Under the Sea. This is like the last thing that I care about when it comes to Lumiere. Lumiere basically says, like, use your Elsa to take out the Lumiere, and then waste your turn and get punished. Or use your Elsa to take a very bad trade down into my other characters because they're hitting back for 4, 5, 6, 3. Like, there's so much stuff to do with Lumiere, and he's such an impressive card for this reason. I think it's safe to say that he is one of the strongest cards. He's always been one of my favorite cards in the entire game. I think every time I have to make a video about Red that includes this card, I will always bring him up in a slide. He's just so incredibly strong. And again, I do put a lot of tech options in the deck. Obviously, we see things like Madame Medusa. Sorry, I have to keep going back, but there's just so much to talk about in this list. The tech options of Madame Medusa is one that I want to talk about first. This one was kind of hit or miss. I had basically 4 to 5 slots that I just didn't really know what to do with. There were some cards where I really didn't want them at 4, but I ended up putting them at 4. I didn't really want them at 3, but I put them at 3. But then I realized something like Tigger is really good in blue because it comes out on turn 3, and it's really good because it kind of stops the really big pivotal moment in a lot of aggro decks, or just even more mid-range mirrors. You see that a lot too, and Madame Medusa actually synergizes really well with Cheshire Cat and things like that, where it could just kind of throw it back. And even in the late game, if you play it and then on turn 4, if you're being really messy, turn 4 and then turn 5 Cheshire. So the swing potential is actually really good, and honestly, she's an okay 3-drop. I think that there's other things to be said, and that's why I kind of make a slide about tech options here. Madame Medusa isn't necessary. I know a lot of people don't like it. I do actually enjoy it. I was testing with 1 uninkable Sisu, and then I think I just put in another 1-drop Olaf or something to have some versatility in the late game, but I ended up putting Medusa just because it was just a little bit more consistent at doing what I was trying to do. And even then, you can just play it as a 3/3 that does nothing, right? Like a 3/3 vanilla on 3, which honestly isn't even too bad. Another tech option that I really wanted to say was Medallion Weights. When Ruby Amethyst became very popular in set 10, it was a library list. It was basically what you see now without the it had some Hercules, some didn't, and Horsemen and all that. But you play Medallion because Prince Philip isn't actually that much of an issue as people think. If you're going to get board wiped, it's going to be Dogs Under the Sea, or it's going to be someone will lose his head plus Under the Sea. But again, depending on how green blue develops and all this stuff, library could definitely make its way back if we start seeing things like Prince Philip only in green blue, or Prince Philip Circle of Life and Dogs or something like that. Obviously then we play library instead of Medallion Weights, but Medallion Weights is just really good because so many people want to again abuse people with stats. They want to abuse these Scuttle, Merryweather, purple cards, all this stuff, right? That is why you want to play Medallion Weights. But again, I will 100% acknowledge that all the lists aren't out, and no major tournament has been won yet, and blue green is a sneak. People want to break blue green, and I've tried breaking blue green as well. But it's just kind of something that is here and it's there. Definitely depends, but again, these are kind of the tech options there. 2 ofs, Madame Medusa, and then basically just the curve. Again, think of it as just like Purple Steel. You're just playing your 1, your 2, your 3, and your 4, and those independently are so strong at developing your game. Hercules could be Dumbo, Hercules could be Yzma, vice versa for all those. All the 3-drops can be any 3-drop, any 2-drop can be any 2-drop, any 1-drop can be any 1-drop, because at the end of the day, your 5 and up will just be like a combination of everything you've been playing, and the later and later the game goes, just the more combinations of everything you can use, right? Like, you're just such a strong deck at developing yourself into the late game, the way Ruby Amethyst has always been. Even in Infinity, the deck is just meant to be able to play a incredibly sticky bottom and just an incredibly powerful top. Like, it is just such a good way to play the deck. And it's honestly super consistent. It abuses what exists in the meta right now. It draws just as well as any other deck in the meta. It isn't susceptible to things like dogs or Under the Sea. It is definitely a lot more susceptible to Mean, Malicious, and Scary and Philip because I do not have the library. I have the weights. But again, a change that can be made incredibly easily depending on who and what and where you're playing and how this meta develops. I think the biggest takeaway was just the addition of this Hercules. Hercules, again, basically a big nullifier for steel, a very big roadblock for a lot of these decks that want to challenge to clear the board. Blurple has always wanted to do it, and if they're not doing it, they're inking you, which is incredibly good for you. They're using their resources to give you resources when your top end is so strong. And again, being able to basically trade down with like Dumbo, Hercules, Invisible Woman, Elsa, and just take no damage back. Incredibly strong. So, honestly, this one was super easy. I mean, Ruby Amethyst is just such a powerhouse when it comes to, what it's supposed to do. It is one of the strongest tempo decks coming into set 12. I think that it'll do really well. I think it'll just barely be out of the... I think it'll be in the top 4. I honestly think it should be in the top 4 of the decks of the set. But again, we haven't seen like the crazy minds break like some infinite toy cycle, and we haven't seen this just like turn 4 board wipe green blue. So there's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be seen. But Ruby Amethyst is honestly one of my favorite decks. It always just plays so incredibly well. It plays like butter. It does everything it's supposed to. It's just a really big, challenging tempo destruction deck, and it just does so well. There's not much more to be said. Thank you guys for tuning in. This one was actually pretty brisk. I feel like I kind of talked about it pretty quick. Not a lot of passion. I'm a little bit tired. But thank you guys very much, and see you guys next time. Oh, I can't stop the video, bro.